What's up, everybody? I just got a 2000 model F350 that was towed in. Customer said he hit the brakes, the pedal went through the floor, he saw brake fluid all under the right front tire. But here's the kicker. He said about a week or so ago, he was hearing some grinding noises and kind of ignored it. So I think he's got two issues going on. I believe it's gonna be a wheel bearing, and that probably contributed to the brakes messing up, because check this out. That is definitely not normal. So let's get this tire off, let's see what's causing that shaking, and let's check out where that brake fluid's coming from.
See that? So I called it, you know, Don's towing service. So I
think I went to school with him.
He's the overflow guy from the guy you gave with. Right. So I just stored it.
It was all on my leg.
I call him all the time now. And then he's like, man, that truck's...
Two front tires. Well, I'm gonna do two front tires and an alignment too, I guess. I mean, you tell me what, yes or no. I mean, you don't want your dad breaking down somewhere.
Freezing is that way. It's been that way a long time and it got worse.
Yeah, it had to have.
Well, can we know the auto number?
Watch this. Do it. You gonna send it to your dad?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Let me know when you're ready. This could be your problem.
I think that might be it, Dad.
So check this out. He's been riding like this for a while now, because if you look at the tire, that tire is worn slam out on the inside.
Yeah. And brand new.
And talking to the customer, talking to this guy right here, because it's his truck, he said they're brand new tires that haven't been on there that long. But the rotors are toast on back and front. The wheel bearing is definitely shot, and I'm hoping it did not mess the drive axle, the full drive axle up, but we're gonna check that also. Looking at it right here, you can see the piston came apart right inside here, and that's where the fluid came out of. So, needless to say, it's probably gonna go back with a set of calipers, definitely a rotor on the right side, wheel bearing, and we need to check the universal joints right here in the drive axle area. So, do you have deep pockets? Because this is gonna cost you a lot of fucking money.
Yeah. He might have to call my brother.
That's my buddy right there. He owns Trinity Contractors. So if you're in the 757 area code, check him out.
Yeah. He had to call my dad. Did my dad come up here with it?
He came up a little bit afterwards.
I signed 2 contracts within the last week. It was getting harder and harder up and down that truck.
Me? Yeah, I like suspension work actually. I do. Now they got the wheel spacer off, let's go ahead and get the caliper off. Yo! Okay. The caliper bolts are held on with a 17. So as I'm taking it apart, it's just falling apart in my hand. Let's go ahead and get this caliper hung up anyway, so we don't have any issues with it. Brake lines, because it doesn't appear to need brake lines. Ugh. I had to do 2 on this bad boy. We're gonna double hook it. There we go. And I got some contacts in and I can't see jack crap. So looking at the pins, they were dry also. We're going to get some new boots and lube them up. This is pretty much what's left of the rear brake. I can honestly say this is the worst one that I've ever seen. This is what was on the front side, and this is what was on the back side. Literally nothing left of these brakes. And if you look right here, you can see she was pretty much demolished. Look at that. He rode this thing hard. It's a work truck. That's what my buddy told me, but just because it's a work truck doesn't mean you don't take care of it, you know what I'm saying? The caliper brackets are a 21. He'll have had it going the right way. This is the back side of the rotor, and you can even see how it's fatter here than it is down here. This thing is toast. It is gone. Nothing left. Next thing I'm gonna get off is a locking hub, and there's a internal clip. We'll get a pair of needle nose pliers, we'll squeeze it together and pop it out. These duckbill, I call them duckbill needle nose, they work just fine. Gives you a good bite that way. My daughter, Allie. Hello, Allie. Say hi to everybody. She's over there shooting videos in Oregon right now. I'll put a link to her channel, Pneumatic Habits. If you get a chance, check it out. After you get that clip out, this should just slide right out, just like that. We're gonna go back with some grease inside here because she is dry. Drier than dry. Overly dry. Matter of fact, there ain't nothing in it. Take a look up inside here and see what we got. We got some nut right there. There's another clip inside here. We gotta get that clip out, and then we'll be able to get the rest of the hardware out so I can slide it out. That's the snap ring. Make sure when you take this apart, just pay attention to how it comes apart so you can go back with it the exact same way. Here's your wheel speed sensor. We're gonna take it out and look at it next. There's a good possibility it's kind of ate up also from this thing being in such a weird position. That wheel speed sensor is held on with a 5mm Allen head. I would definitely take these off by hand. I wouldn't put an air tool on it. You definitely don't want to strip it. Go ahead and take it out. Let's take a look at this thing here. I was surprised it was even reading. There's so much metal around it. You get too much metal around these speed sensors and they don't read correctly. They'll be really inaccurate on their readings because again, that ring it passes through, it's got an open slot, a closed slot. So when it goes past that open slot, if you got too much metal here, it doesn't realize it's open, so it doesn't read your speed correctly. The wheel bearing is bolted on with 21 mils. Should probably use an extension on this, that or a swivel. So we're gonna switch over to a swivel. I think it's gonna be easier getting in there. Probably use it on both sides, especially going back with it. Get a breaker bar on this one here. That one was on there. That one was a little tight. when I go back, I'm probably going to back a blue light type. The old guy that drives this thing, he beats the hell out of this trucking. I don't want to take any chances. Shit, hopefully it should come around. You all right? So looking at the wheel bearing, we're gonna have to buy the assembly. But if you look right inside here, she's ate all the hell. There is nothing left. Look at the play in this thing. So we're gonna get that whole assembly there. If you look up inside here, on the front axle assembly, it definitely shouldn't come apart like this. And like I was saying earlier, it's kind of a prime example. When you start hearing grinding noise, it is definitely time to pull over and see what the heck is going on. This shaft should just come out. I can get a damn grip on it. Come on, man, he's calling me now. So basically, it's so tore apart in here, I'm having to demolish it to get it apart. Hell yeah, now we're getting somewhere. So I think we got lucky. The axle assembly and the U-joints, they're fine. What happened was everything around it got destroyed. So let me get some parts list together, get some parts ordered. I'll show you what we're putting back on it and we'll get it back together. All right, so we just got some parts in. They brought one hub bearing. I diagnosed it. You're just gonna have to trust me. The other side's bad too. Part number for the bearing is 94 25 60 48. Part number for the pads, a GMKD 756. This is the seal that goes in the knuckle assembly that protects that axle. That part number is 710493. And then of course we have the rotors because they're slam up. YH1 45274 Paul. So that's a list of parts that just came in, minus a caliper. But I'm gonna buy two calipers, one for the left and the right. Even though the left one's good, you always do calipers in pairs. Man, I get a ton of comments of people saying that, oh, you only gotta replace the bad side. You're just ripping people off. That is not true. In about a week, I'm gonna have a video out. I'm gonna have an open discussion about it. You'll hear my thoughts and I wanna hear your thoughts. See you in about a week. But for right now, let's get this job done. Let's get it back together. So the first thing I'm gonna do is clean off inside where the seal goes, make sure everything looks good. Then I'll get a little zip gun and I'll clean up around here so that new bearing sits flush. But right now it's loaded with grease up in here. You wanna get that out. Looks good. I was kind of worried that the way it came apart that it was going to be ate up more inside here, but it's not. We're looking good. So I'm about a day behind. Went to put the axle in here and we had to install this seal. And I was thinking I had a tool for it. Looked everywhere, and I didn't. And I was trying to put the seal on the first time, just generically tapping on like with a brass punch. It didn't work. So I had to purchase a tool. Went online and looked, and no one in the local area had a tool. So I had to go to Amazon and I had one shipped here for like 50 bucks. But now that we got it on, we're ready to get it back together. Got to make sure when you put these in, you get it, they seat all the way in. We're just going to take a little bit of wheel bearing grease, put it on here just to help it slide in a little bit easier. Kind of less fighting that way. Whew. All right, let's get this sucker in and get this job done. This thing has been on my lift way too long. All right. In, baby. One of the things I like to do is get a good habit of putting just a little bit of, like the anti-seize basically is what it is, caliper grease or whatever you want to call it. Just around here, just a little bit, because if I ever have to work on it again, it just makes life easier. So the new wheel bearing is going to come with a wheel speed sensor. Go ahead and use that. Don't use the old one if you're doing it. And you know, secondly, make sure you go back with all the correct shims when you're doing it. A little bit of panic mode. Couldn't find the daggone bolts of this thing. Looked everywhere. Everywhere but under my nose. My brother came out and found them. It's like, I could always use the old ones, but it's just best to go back with new. So my eyes have been giving me some issues. I went to the doctor a couple times, and the lady says, well, your prescription changed. I said, that's fine. So, you know, I wear glasses, of course. I wear them on top of my head all the time. I said, well, let's try some contacts, because the glasses are just a pain in the butt after a while. And so she takes 2 weeks dialing them in, trying to figure out exactly what to do, you know, what prescription to put on me. Finally get it dialed in, and she says, okay, now these won't be until August. I'm like, I need to see now, not in August. And meanwhile, I'm paying for this the whole time, you know. So she says, well, let's try a different set. Let's try, because I use multifunction, you know, one for distance, mid-range, and reading. She says, well, let's change it. Let's do one for distance and one for reading. And I got to pay for 2 weeks all over again, trying and fitting and everything. You're kidding me. Right? So imagine going to your mechanic and saying, hey, this ain't right. And me telling you, hey, let's just try this for 2 weeks. Pay me while we're trying it. And then say, oh, you know what? Let's try something else because we can't do it that way. And keep paying me. Because that's the kind of guy I am. You're just going to have to keep paying. All right, we are getting somewhere now. I don't like them threads. Try something different here. Don't like how they're going on. What is going on? So if you ever get to a point like that and things just aren't fitting correctly, take a second, pull it apart, and check it, because they should be fitting correctly. Make sure your speed sensor goes to the top. I think I was grabbing the wrong bolts. I was grabbing the wrong bolts. The bolts that go on the wheel bearing are these, not these. I hate when you get a job like this and it puts you a day and a half behind. So I got so excited that the tool came in. I was able to work on this car. Started slapping it back together. Didn't put the dust cover on. So now I gotta take all this bag apart. All right, now that I fast forward through my little hiccup here, just goes to show you no matter how many years you've been doing this, and I've probably been doing this longer than most of my viewers have been alive. You gotta get to a point to where you just gotta slow up and take a second and look at what you're doing. Never get too excited. But it didn't take long. Just added about an extra 10 minutes to my job. I'll make sure I bill the customer for it. Just joking. Make sure you clean off the brake rotor, because it's going to come with a coating on it. Don't get your greasy hands on it. Try to flip it around. Looks good. After you get that on there, get the spacer on there, and make sure you go back with a little bit of blue Loctite. Just put a little dab in all the studs. Probably go to the beach, sit in the rain because I know it's going to rain all weekend, they said. So every Memorial Day weekend, we usually go to the beach for the past 36 years now. Rain or shine. That's where we're sitting, on the beach. Literally sitting on the beach, rain or shine. My brother, his family used to go with us, and we don't talk about it much, but about 5 years ago, his daughter developed cancer. And so he hadn't been in the past 5 years. Now, mind you, we went together for probably 27 years every weekend or more weekend to the beach. So we're pretty close. He's my partner here in business, and she developed cancer. She battled it for, I think, 5 to 6 years. She got a bone marrow transplant, and she passed away last year, February of last year. And it's put a hurting on the families, like I said, because we were like this. We were just that tight, you know. And it's been rough, and he's not been feeling so well recently. But he did start a foundation in his daughter's name, and because when she was sick, she had just been married a few years, and she got sick. But what happened was they needed funds, you know, and there wasn't a lot of funds out there for people, I guess, older people, plenty for kids, but they couldn't find a lot for older people. So he started a foundation, and it's in her name. I'll put a link in the description below. And what he does is, it's a nonprofit foundation, and he takes money, and like Duke University, they'll contact him, and they've been doing things, and they'll ask him, hey, look, this person needs to have a phone bill paid or a rent paid or groceries, and he takes money and he donates towards that. Like I said, he doesn't make a dime off it. It is a nonprofit. But he mainly helps out the older people. Not that the younger ones don't need it. There's much money out there for older people because she went through it firsthand trying to find it. But if any of you guys like to help out, anything is welcome. A $5 bill to a $10 bill, anything is welcome. Like I say, the money goes towards helping people with cancer. Like I say, it's definitely going to be missed. All right, that being said, let's get back to work. It's definitely not the same without them, though. Pretty sure the new caliper is going to come with a bracket. We're going to go ahead and use that, and it does. This is the new caliper bracket. Make sure you put it on the correct way. What is going on here? Can't see up from down sometimes. Make sure when you put the guides on for the pads, there is a certain way they go on. The spring-loaded part goes towards the back. Make sure you stick it on like that. I have made the mistake in the past and tried to stick them on, and they were up front because you can put them on the other way, but the pads, they don't fit worth a crap doing it that way. And all the years of working on cars, I can promise you, I've definitely screwed some shit up. But that's how you learn. You don't make mistakes, you don't learn. And anybody that ever says, oh, I don't make any mistakes, they're a daggone liar. Isn't that right, Bob? If you don't make mistakes, you ain't learning, right? And twice on Sundays. So now we're gonna go on with the pads, and that is the new caliper. This has been one greasy job, let me tell you. Make sure when you go back with the calipers, the bleeder valve goes to the top. You can, believe it or not, put the left on the right and the right on the left. And if that bleeder valve is on the bottom, you're not gonna ever get it bled. And I have seen it done by accident, of course, numerous times. I get people put calipers on and they'll come in here and they'll say, I can't get it to bleed. And I look at it and say, well, you got your calipers on backwards. Bada bing, bada boom. All right, so at this point, we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna lay the caliper up here and try not to stretch that brake hose too much. Take off these hangers I had got sitting here because we're gonna set the, ooh, don't get on there, it's all dirty. Set the caliper up here and try not to let the brake hose hang too much. I mean, sometimes you can't help it. It's not gonna destroy it if it does, but why take that chance? So this guy told me he has not put brakes on this car in 280,000 miles. I said, you've got to be kidding me. Which would explain why the damn thing came apart. That is your brake, that's your vacuum line that goes to the four-wheel drive. So make sure when you put it on, like I said, you look at it, fits nice and tight, doesn't all fit jibbity jabbery, if that's even a word. But I do like to pinch off the brake lines just to help minimize the mess. And I use this tool right here. It's made for doing this. You can use vice grips or whatever you got. I just happen to have this from a toolkit that we used to use from Mighty years ago when we cleaned out fuel injectors. And it works. And there is a core on this, so we don't want to lose it. So make sure when you go back to the brake lines, 1 second, noisy bitch. Make sure when you go back with the brake lines, you go back with new washers and the fittings that go on it. Go ahead. You're gonna have to excuse the noise a little bit, you jack. My guy behind me is working on the car, making some extra noise, so we're gonna have to work around it just a little bit. I apologize. So when I'm fitting brake lines, Bobby, 1 second. So when I'm fitting brake lines, I like to tighten them all the way down, and then I loosen them up a couple of turns, move it, reseat it again. Kind of helps set that brass washer a little bit better that way. All right, Bob, go ahead. Now you can take off the crimping tool here. This is the hose I was talking about. Make sure it gets put on. You know what? Things are so dry rotted, it's crazy. Make sure when you go back with the hose, you secure it. These clips are brittle. We're gonna go back with some zip ties in place of them. Then go ahead and make sure it's nice and secure. Then we'll finish running the ABS wire. Same thing with the wheel speed sensor. Make sure you secure it tightly so it doesn't have any major issues. Messing with these older cars, most of the clips are old and brittle, so you have to go back with new. You can't help it. And the points right here, when you wire tie it up, make sure you zip tie it on the garments here that they give you so you're not crimping the wire itself. So we're ready to go ahead and bleed the brakes. I'm gonna call Bobby over here, let him help me do it. Once we get it bled, I'll get the wheels on there and we'll go for our test drive. Catch you in a bit. So we're on our test drive and the brakes are stopping just fine. The rest of the truck needs a lot of TLC, Tom, but that's for another video. Guys, I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Catch you later.